Selecting an insurance provider for your business is a big decision.
We know how important your company is to the community.
Alford & Associates can manage your insurance. It's our job.
Alford & Associates, benefiting your employees and protecting your business.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of HTV's Louisiana and Beyond.
And in this program, we'll explore a very important part of the coastal puzzle in South Louisiana, mitigation.
It may seem a bit complex since the word has multiple meanings, but luckily, we will hear from the state coastal experts who will explain the concept in simple terms.
And those experts include Angela Hidalgo, Chet Chiasson, Senator Mike Fesi, Lafourche Parish President Mitch Orgeron, Michael Hare, Stevie Smith, Tony Alford, and Colonel Scotty Autin.
And in our guest segment tonight, we welcome Corey Keefe from Crosby Tugs.
And we'll be right back with Mitigation on Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond is brought to you in part by Edison Schwest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nichols State University, and Sea Level Construction.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
In a world where you can choose to be anything, who do you choose to be? At Nichols State University, with over 70 distinct degree programs, we believe our students can be anything. Be an artist, a chef, a journalist, an educator, a lifesaver. But no matter what you choose to be a colonel. Be more at Nichols State University.
And welcome back to Louisiana and Beyond in our exploration of coastal mitigation.
And tonight we'll look at a couple versions of mitigation, and we begin with the most obvious definition as it relates to the coastal world.
I think there's really two ways to think about mitigation. A lot of people in South Louisiana think about flood risk mitigation or mitigating damages from hurricanes, that could be things you're doing to your home or things we're putting on the landscape to help you, like a levee. A levee is a mitigation type feature. In the other context, we have the Clean Water Act, and there's a section in there that says if you build a permanent impact to waters of the U.S., you've got to replace that offset. And that's where you start to get into the private market out there with mitigation banks. And really the 404 mitigation bank credit market is the largest environmental market in the world today. It's very robust down here in Louisiana. And in some cases, there may be things where people see this could become a challenge from a finance or cost standpoint. Also, is there enough mitigation to support our projects? And I've got a long history in this policy area as well as in that business area. And so I think we're going to bring some solutions to CPRA that will actually help our local levee districts as well as our federal partners find truly cost-effective and truly reliable environmental mitigation. So things out there on the landscape that are really restoring that environmental benefit in the most cost-effective way to support our projects.
So whenever you build a construction project and you impact wetlands, you have to mitigate for that, which means you have to go build another project to offset the damages you do by constructing a levee. There's a lot of arguments that can be made that Morganza the Gulf is self-mitigating. That's something you probably heard before. That is true. So there's an argument there that perhaps we don't need to mitigate as much as we're told that we have to, but regardless, we're going to do what we're supposed to do, right? So in the mitigation world, there's different types of mitigation that we do. We can do marsh creation, we can do terracing, there's many different things we can do. So, and it all depends on the type of water, the type of salinity in the water where we're impacting, whether it's fresh water, brackish water. Those are all complicated in technical terms. That just means the amount of salinity in the water and what type of plants grow in that environment. So that's kind of where we are with those types of issues. And we have to kind of navigate through these difficult processes to identify mitigation sites, what type of mitigation, what habitat are we affecting, and then how we're going to pay for and build.
So when we say mitigation in coastal Louisiana, it almost always means mitigating for impacts to wetlands that are damaged by your project. So easy enough to visualize. We're going to build a levee. It takes up 10 acres of footprint, right? And we impact 10 acres of wetlands by building a levee on top of it. Then you got to go build 10 acres or perhaps even more to mitigate for the loss of the ones that you destroyed. That's basically what it is. And so it's much more complicated than I just made it sound, because what kind of wetlands you impact matters. The agencies also often make you mitigate for a multiplication factor of the acres you impact. So if you impact 10, they make you build 20 or make you build 25 or whatever. And getting through that process and getting everybody to agree on what the actual mitigation is a burden, okay? And then the second part of it is going to do the mitigation can cost you a lot of money. I mean, we have certainly had projects where the mitigation cost was equal to the project cost itself. So if I had a $10 million levee project, I might do $10 million of mitigation. So now I don't need $10 million to do my project, I need 20. And so it gets back to what I said is one of the biggest things is getting enough money to do the project. So now I got to find twice as much money to do a project. That is not uncommon.
So every time you impact either a water bottom or a marsh area, there's a mitigation amount attached to that. And that means you have to replace what you're impacting. So let's just say, for instance, and this is actually a real life story, and it's a project. It's the Slip D development in Port Fourchon, 1,000-foot wide slip by 3,500-foot long slip. We were mandated by permit to create 65 acres of marsh. But we had enough material in that dredge project, in the initial dredge, to create 100 acres of marsh. That created the coastal wetlands park. So now we have an interactive mitigation area that people can come in and, kayak through a tidal creek and enjoy the marsh. And we're currently under construction right now is a walkway path along the marsh edge, and as well as an elevated kind of observation tower that's going to identify the types of habitat that's being created there. So we wanted to create an interactive mitigation area so people can understand what mitigation is. And typically mitigation is done in areas that are remote, that people can't see. You hear the term, but you don't really know what that means. We wanted to say, hey, look, term mitigation is this. This is what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So the footprint of a levee, for instance, is impacting a coastal zone, is impacting marsh and open water. So you're trying to build a levee to protect the community, but at the same time, you have to spend even more money to mitigate for the impacts you're doing to the footprint where that levee is going to be. It seems a little odd that you would do something like that, cause the price of projects to go up, but that's what we have to deal with in this coastal zone world. And that's kind of the things that we talked about today, was to try to figure out how we can change policy, change regulation to make sure that kind of use a little more common sense, right? Use common sense in making these policy changes to say, well, if we're building something that's going to be protecting the community because the majority of it has washed away, then maybe the mitigation demand might be a little less than what it typically would be, so that we can use our funds to actually build that protection rather than mitigation for it as well.
And we will hear much more about mitigation later in the program.
But first, we will learn more about Crosby Tugs from Corey Keefe right after the break.
Sea Level Construction is a trusted heavy civil contractor delivering turnkey solutions to the Gulf South. From large-scale infrastructure and power distribution foundations to marine construction, driven piling, specialty foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, site development, heavy equipment maintenance, vessel repair, and inshore tugboat services. We also design and supply helical piles nationwide, delivering reliable foundation solutions. Call Sea Level Construction to set the foundation for your next project.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
Now we turn our focus to a local company that began with a single tugboat that grew into a large and diverse fleet. Crosby Tug successfully invested in the people, the equipment, and capabilities to keep the region moving.
And Crosby's Director of Business Development, Corey Keefe, talks about the importance to our area and the industry of the necessity of a national energy policy.
What I think that the future looks like for us over here all depends on what's going to go on in the energy sector of this country. You know, as the administration changes, we're having a hard time getting an energy policy for this nation. An energy policy for this nation is so disjointed that it's not funny. The U.S. is not a good place to make investments into the energy sector because we can't develop an energy policy that has any substantiation. Look, we're competing for assets, drilling rigs, marine equipment, people. We're competing with countries like China that has a 100-year energy program, with the countries out of the Middle East that are contracting goods and services and people for years, 5 years, 10 years. They have legs on their energy programs. And over here in the U.S., as the administration changes, that changes. So if you're standing from an investment standpoint, where would you go spend your money? All right. Well, we got to base our growth on that, and we have to depend on all the developers and the owners and operators of oil and gas, wind and solar, nuclear, hydrogen, whatever, to support what we do. It's all about marine transportation, right? If these things don't come together right, well, then it's a huge problem. What I see us moving into the future in is that there's a lot of development right now of facilities in the U.S. LNG facilities, natural gas producing plants, refineries and all that need upgrading, or some new ones need to be built. And there's a lot of modules that are built all over the world that get delivered that require marine transportation. So when you look at all these things, it's changed a lot from, it's not your grandpa's oil field no more. It's all about the energy sector in general. One day, and I say this all the time, there's a lot of resistance against renewable energy on wind and all of that. This is like finding out that someone's pregnant. The baby's coming whether you like it or not. And the renewable sector is coming, and we should be planning on being more receptive towards the renewable sector. Just as much attention into oil, gas, nuclear, solar. You can't tell me that we're not smart enough to figure out where's the best place to use all these things. Some places work better than others. So, until we get an energy policy that's supportive of what we're doing, it's going to continue to be a struggle. But it's not that it don't exist. It's there. And you just got to be smart about the way you engage yourself going into the future, but we'll be there.
And Corey's thoughts on the matter obviously reflect not only his position with Crosby Tugs, but also his respective leadership positions with the North Lafourche Conservation Levee and Drainage District, as well as the Association of Levee Boards of Louisiana.
And Corey now shares with us how Kurt Crosby encourages his employees to be involved in service to the industry and the local communities their companies serve.
Crosby's attitude about all of that is this way. He wants to be involved in public service, but he just really don't have time to do it. But he's got enough people working for him that he's happy to see us do this. All right. Well, I'm on the North Lafourche Levee District, but his son-in-law Brett DeRoche is on the South Lafourche Levee District, and he works for us too. Joe Caldwell, who was our manager of the dredge division, was on the Port Commission for Terrebonne Parish. So he sees that his understanding of the importance of us being involved in everything that he's doing, that he could keep at arm's distance, because he trusts the people that are doing these things. Now, from what I do, look, I'm constantly pushing for reform in the Gulf of Mexico for drilling and all of that, because I understand that drilling equals production, production equals GOMESA funds equals money spent on coastal protection and restoration. It's a huge circle for me, and he knows that. And he knows that if we don't have all of these things, we don't have a market to market our equipment to. The people who are depending on their job, they don't have a job. And if we don't have the infrastructure to keep them here, they can't live here. So it's a big circle, and you have to have all these things. You have to have some interest in the ports. We have a shipyard in the port. We have all these things, so it's not just, hey, look, don't use my time to do that, because he's not like that. He really has given us the latitude to be able to function at doing what we're doing, and expects for us to be able to be involved, and expects us to be productive. And I think that you could see with all the stuff being built around us right now that we're not letting them down. So, or letting the people down, or letting anybody down.
And it is obvious from Corey's testimony what made Crosby Tugs and its affiliated companies successful. Strong and visionary leadership, trust in their teams, and the freedom to get the job done while supporting their local community.
And coming up after the break, more on the mitigation in the coastal world. And we will hear from Lafourche Parish President Mitch, Orgeron, Senator Mike Fesi, Angela Hidalgo, Tony Alford, and Colonel Scotty Autin. We will be right back.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Sea Level Construction is a trusted heavy civil contractor delivering turnkey solutions to the Gulf South. From large-scale infrastructure and power distribution foundations to marine construction, driven piling, specialty foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, site development, heavy equipment maintenance, vessel repair, and inshore tugboat services. We also design and supply helical piles nationwide, delivering reliable foundation solutions. Call Sea Level Construction to set the foundation for your next project.
Welcome back to Louisiana and beyond in our exploration of coastal mitigation.
And during Congressman Steve Scalise's recent Energy Roundtable event at the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, we captured some passionate thoughts questioning the necessity of mitigation from one local state senator and the Lafourche Parish president.
If we got to go and construct a levee to protect our own area, a new levee, we have to mitigate damage to marsh that is going to supposedly wash away. That sink and bed story. If an island washed away 10 years ago, and we want to go restore that island, there's folks that says we have to mitigate to go rebuild the island. And we need to reform the mitigation requirement. It drives up our expense to repair our coastline Government shouldn't even have to pay for mitigation costs, quite frankly, because we're trying to restore what was previously there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and in some cases 50 years ago. And that's completely unnecessary. And for us, it's our way of life, it's our culture. We're trying to protect it. And believe it or not, that levee that you see out there today, that was paid for by the taxpayers of this locally.
They didn't get any federal money to kill.
Well, it's the wetland side, Todd. I just passed a bill in the Senate last session that kind of goes with what the Supreme Court put out. You know, what's a wetland? And I worked with the guys down here, the levee board, very, very close. But they building our own levees. We spent a lot of that money just on mitigation. And that should be ridiculous because we're trying to save money rather than spend money on something that's unnecessary. Just like me in the pipeline business. Somebody goes out and they got some wetland flowers or whatever in a spot in the middle of a cane field. We got to go around it because it might be wetlands. I mean, it's just because that's one spot's holding water.
It's very complicating because, everyone wants to see levees built because it protects the community. But the other side of it is if we have to mitigate at the same time we're constructing a levee feature, that's that much less money we can use to go build another levee feature. So there's a balance there. And, personalities come into play a lot with this kind of thing. But we've built over 900 acres of mitigation, whether it's terracing or marsh creation, since Morganza has been constructed. We're ahead of our mitigation requirements. So we're just going to continue to move forward and do what we have to do. And we've seen a lot of benefits, even though we didn't intend to, with just operating the Morganza alignment with the water control structures. Marsh started growing interior inside of the system. We didn't even plan for that. So certain benefits are being realized without even intentionally doing it. So that's the whole self-mitigating argument of operating the system.
If you remember after Katrina, I think Don Schwab was parish president at the time, and we were trying to do anything. It was the most miserable time of my life. When people come into the levee were crying and their house was underwater, mud in their house. You're trying to figure out some way to patch this thing up and be able to prevent that from happening again. And of course, the first thing you did, because Morganza was a federal project, you figured, hey, we could build up the interior levees. And that 1 cent sales tax that we tried to pass was to build up the interior levees, and thank God that it didn't pass, because it'd been hard to go after another 0.5 cent that we put on Morganza. As once we figured out what the designated alignment of Morganza, we figured we could move forward and get one permit at a time, right? Learned to David Cormerdell was a wizard at working during declaration of emergency. So learned a lot from him and declared emergency quite often after that. So we get a lot of work in before the hurricane got there. Of course, you didn't have much time when that happened, right? But we built a lot of this project under emergency declarations. And it didn't get us past the mitigation, didn't get us past what we were supposed to do. It just got us to put the work on the ground and do that after. Something out of the box like that, When we were told to do mitigation concurrent with construction as we were building this, the Corps of Engineers had put the mitigation on the side and were putting the protection on the ground while we were putting the protection and doing the mitigation before we get our next permit.
We at the Corps of Engineers work very closely with your state sponsor, CPRA, and other agencies. We work with GOSEP, and we are always actively looking for opportunities to mitigate the risk of hurricane and storm surge, manage our water in a responsible way, promote economic activity, and develop those systems, procedures, and structures that will help our vibrant way of life down in here in Louisiana. Louisiana matters. It matters on a national and worldwide stage. You matter. You're part of that entire equation. And we want to develop those systems, those structures that will mitigate that risk. I trust in the local, the state, and the federal agencies that are setting those things, and the guidance and direction that they give is coordinated across all those agencies.
And that wraps up our exploration of coastal mitigation. We thank our coastal experts for their participation in the program as well as our sponsors and statewide officials.
And obviously, we thank you for watching and supporting our program. We hope to see you again next week for another edition of HTV's Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond has been brought to you in part by Edison Schwest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nicholls State University, and Sea Level Construction.